You know that the Balfour Declaration said that Palestine that is Jordan, what's today known as Jordan, and what was known as Eretz Israel, all this area, from the Iraqi border to the Mediterranean Sea, will be the homeland of the Jewish people. That was in the Balfour Declaration. And when Britain was in control of Palestine, the British mandate, in the British mandate, all this area was meant to be a homeland to the Jewish people. Of course, without prejudicing the people who lived there. This was enacted into the San Remo Agreement, and then later on into the League of Nations, and later on into the United Nations Charter. So it's an official that Israel, that the Palestine is the homeland of the Jewish people, not of the Arabs. The Arabs can live there, but they don't have a national right on Palestine. What Britain did in 1946, it took out the Jordan, the whole area, which was called later on Transjordan, and gave it to a prince from Saudi Arabia, Hashemite prince, Abdullah. And it formed a state that was called Transjordan. So Israel was left, or rather Palestine was left with 1/3 of the area that was promised to the Jewish people. Then there was the partition plan, and the Arabs did not accept the partition plan, and therefore 7 armies invaded Israel. And then there was formed, the West Bank was formed by Jordan. It was annexed to Jordan, but nobody accepted it, except for Britain and Pakistan. Pakistan was a Muslim country, and Britain was a protector of Jordan, but even Arab countries did not accept it. And therefore, when Israel fought the war of 1967, which was a defense war, it had more right. I'm not talking about the Bible, I'm talking about international law. It had more right than any other state on Judea and Samaria and Gaza. And then there was after the 1967 war, there was the Security Council Resolution 242 that said in clear words that Israel will not withdraw from all the territories, nor from the territories, but from territories that were gained by this 1967 war. And Israel at that time, or later on, has returned more than 80%, if not more, of the territories to Egypt. And also there was, the whole agreement was the agreements were with states, not with Palestinian entity, which did not arise at the time, but it was with states. Therefore, the 242 agreement, the 242 resolution, did not give the Palestinians the 1967 armistice borderline. But now they want to go back to the 1967 borderlines, which a foreign minister of ours said once it was the Auschwitz border. And they want Jerusalem as their capital. And not just Jerusalem, but the old part of Jerusalem, which has one of the most holy places. Can you imagine the Jewish people without Jerusalem? Can you imagine the Jewish people without the temple? Temple Mount. All our history is built on Temple Mount. We had in Ariel University a conference, international conference, on the two-state solution. It is obvious that the two-state solution has failed. It is not feasible. The Arabs will not accept anything less than the 1967 borderlines. But when I say Palestinians, I must be more careful. The negotiations are not being carried out with the Palestinians. Abu Mazen does not represent the Palestinian people. He hardly represents the Fatah. Can you imagine that the Arabs negotiating with the Labour Party of Israel for a peace treaty? Actually, we are negotiating with a small part of the Palestinian people. So after we go back to the 1967 borderlines and we bring in hundreds of thousands of Arabs, suppose we concede to everything they want. We tell them, all right, what do you want? We'll give you everything, just make peace with us. Even if this happens, the Hamas is going to come later on and say, we did not do this agreement. It does not apply to us. And supposing we come to the Hamas and say, well, what do you want? We'll bring in another 500,000 Arabs. And they will sign a treaty with us. Then the jihad will come over and say, wait a minute, this does not apply to us. So there is no ending. There is no ending because we are not negotiating peace with the Palestinian people, as Arafat at the time said, that he represents all the Palestinian people. So the whole thing is not feasible. It cannot come into being. It's a myth. Therefore, we have to think about other solutions, and there are other solutions. And at the conference in Ariel, which took place last month, I promised to bring solution until the next conference, which will take place in December 2011. What we are trying to do is to have a think tank of people who are very much interested in the question of the two-state solution. And we want to make a think tank not only in Ariel, not only in Israel, but also here in the United States. And I've asked Steve Goldberg, who is with us here, to help in this matter. And I believe he's going to say a few words after me. But what we want here is to have a think tank also in Los Angeles, also in New York. It's going to be very important. Every one of us can contribute to that. And we want to find what sort of solution we can get. In Ariel, at the Center for Law and Mass Media, that I am chair, we are conducting research by professors and researchers in many fields. The field of international law, the field of mass media, the field of demography, and other fields as well, like sociology and history. For example, the Arabs speak about being in Palestine since time immemorial. Before the Jews. And they say we were always the majority. Where did these Arabs come from? How come Mark Twain in the 17th century said he was in going through Palestine and he didn't see even one person walking in the in the land. It was a desert. It was a desert with all sorts of malaria and other illnesses. And since the Jews came over and started working very hard on the land, the Arabs poured in. Now you don't become a person who wants national, who wants to be, wants to make a state. If you live there 100 years or 200 years, I can tell you, for example, that Jews in Iraq lived there 2,000 years. They were kicked out by hanging 18 Jews in the main public square in Baghdad. Egypt, Morocco. Jews lived there for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. This does not give them national rights. Now, why would the Arabs ask for national rights in the homeland of the Jews? And we should accept it. So what we're trying to do is find other solutions to the Israeli-Arab conflict. And it's not a Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It's an Israeli-Arab conflict. Because when we speak about two states, I would like to see the two states. I don't see two states. I see one state which is totally Palestinian, and another state where you have 1.5 million Arabs living in that state, and they say every day that they are Palestinians. I taught in Haifa University, in the Faculty of Law, for 7 years. And when you go into the restaurant, you think you are in Damascus. You think you are in Damascus. There's a very strong Arab Arab organization. They put on the Palestinian flag each time they demonstrate. They don't put the Israeli flag, mind you. I mean, you're demonstrating against the Israeli government, okay. But why Palestinian flag? And when they're interviewed, they say openly, we are Palestinians living in Israel. We don't see that we are Israelis. We have nothing to do with Israel. And they sit on a quota of the Jews. Because to study law, you need a very high grade. You need 10.5 grade, which is very, very high. Now, my daughter wanted to study law in Haifa, and she was not accepted because she did not have 10.5. But the Arabs get in with 8.5 and 9 average. Because they are Arabs, and you have in a class 1/3 of the students who are Arabs. They can hardly write or read Hebrew, and they want to be lawyers. But when they qualify, they know very well the way to the Supreme Court. Very well. And they cause a lot of headache. So, and they work against Israel. So the solution must be different, not a two-state solution. And let me tell you, I see 4 states. Not 2 states, but 4 states. 4 states that in the eyes of the Arabs will become all Palestinian. One is Jordan. 85% of the population of Jordan are Palestinians. The Queen of Jordan is Palestinian. Jordan is going to become Palestinian within a generation or 2 or 3, I don't know. But in the end, it's going to be Palestinian because